Expedition 33 has been disqualified for using generative AI. So in recent news just opened up that the Indie Game Awards have revoked Expedition 33, and the team has obviously admitted in early 2022 they used AI tools as placeholders for textures in pre-production. But the crazy thing is, what does this actually mean for the Game Awards? Especially for nominations like Best Art Direction. Because people are saying that this should have just been given to Silksong now. Because when you think about it, if you're using generative AI, you basically cheated your way in getting Best Art Direction. And what does this mean for other big titles as well? Because there were other big titles which actually got caught out basically using generative AI, and they did end up winning Game of the Year. I'm not going to say who, but you know. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Please like the video. I just opened up a Patreon, so please check that out as I help artists and creators find their way in the gaming and creative industry as I've worked on titles like Ni no Kuni and One Piece. Let's go. So for the people who doesn't know what generative AI is, it can basically be used to expand on pixels which is already created. Basically like pattern matching. As someone who is a graphic designer, of course, I've always used Adobe, so I am very aware of the tool. I have used it in terms of expanding textures on my own projects. For example, if I had like an aspect ratio I wanted to expand on, let's say I have a river texture, I will just expand it accordingly, so at least I didn't have to manipulate too much of the sort of pixels. So I am very aware of the tools, and if I have a client who's okay with me using AI, then that is no problem at all. And I have used it for some of my projects, so that's not something where I hate AI and stuff like that. No, I am very familiar with the tool, and I am very familiar on the uses it can actually do. But that doesn't mean everyone is happy with the tool.
Because of the fact that it abuses a trust between artists at bare minimum because it's using stolen assets from other artists. But on top of that, generally speaking, it replaces people's jobs and it's harming marginalized communities, period, full stop. And corporations can sit up here and say that no one's job is being replaced, but the reality is, let's say they want someone to do busy work for, like creating assets to be placeholders. That is what you hire amateur artists for. That is what you hire intern artists for, even if they're I don't believe internships should be unpaid labor, but unpaid labor in a world that values work experience, particularly for college students, which still is unfair and a form of, I feel like, exploitation. And also, something is better than nothing. I would know as a college student who's gone through that very same thing. This is to say, imagine I didn't get an internship because a generative AI bot was doing a job that at bare minimum I could have done for free.
And this is such a valid reason to crash out on. Because when you think about it, if you're an intern, if you just graduated and you really want to get into the gaming industry, or you really want to start making an impact in the sort of world and kind of show your ideas and stuff, and then you're just not finding a job just because they're just saying, oh yeah, you know, you don't align with our core ideals, or you don't have enough experience. But then secretly it's just because they're using generative AI to kind of fill in the gaps, help out with padding, where an intern who could have did it for free, giving them experience doing design work or doing any sort of artwork, you've kind of stolen it from them now. Because now you're just helping these big corporations who do provide these tools, and you're just cutting corners. You're not helping the sort of creatives who are trying to grow in the creative industry. But obviously there are some few things which we also need to confirm with Expedition 33, that apparently these assets were slipped out. Apparently there were placeholders, which we all know now that they were placeholders, but apparently they wasn't supposed to make the cut. Apparently they was supposed to be taken out. They were supposed to be taken out prior to launch in April 2022, but apparently the QA division didn't even notice. Now for me personally, I wasn't born yesterday. They are a small indie company, so if it got to the point where they did those sort of designs and then it got to the QA division where they need to do quality control and they're checking on budget and they say, oh wait, oh yeah, we need to replace that. We need to get a designer quickly. But money. No, let's just leave it in, man. It is what it is. And then maybe when the launch came out, they got the big sort of sales and everything, then they decided to patch it in. That seems more of a realistic sort of realistic theory, I would say. But what do you guys think? Because it doesn't, like, we're not born yesterday. Like, if you guys wanted to keep it in there, you wanted to keep it in there. It's not that crazy to think that.
So unfortunately, the creators of Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios, have fully admitted that they're using generative AI. No, we're not talking procedural generation or the boring stuff. No, actual concept art is being generated. And suspiciously enough, they're not clarifying which generative AI model they're using, which probably indicates it's something very unethical. Because he's hiring more artists, that this absolves him of the problems with AI. That's like 50% of the issue with Gen AI. It's not just about whether it's replacing people's jobs, it's also about whether it's stealing artists' work. So you have to understand, most open-ended AI models work by combing the internet and going through artists' portfolio, using their work as a reference without citing or even telling you that they're doing that. Normally, when a human is doing it and they want to use another artist's work as a reference, they have to actually cite that, get permission, and possibly pay that artist depending on how much they want to take from them. Generative AI models circumvent all that and effectively break infringement and copyright law. In Larian's defense, they have clarified that they'll redraw the AI work and it's just purely for quote-unquote inspiration, but again, it's still stealing other artists' work.
The fact that Baldur's Gate, Larian Studios been using AI as well. To be honest, I'm not really surprised because that's such a big game. But it just shows that, yeah, when you think about all these big AAA companies, like, let's just be honest, guys, like, are they always gonna be using organic or like man-made textures on every single asset? Let's be honest right now, because these big games, they have thousands of assets, and yeah, a lot of them will be reusing textures, of course, but I'm not surprised if they want to add a bit more variance to rocks or add a bit more variance to these sort of like tombs and realms and dungeons, that they're going to use generative AI to kind of manipulate certain corners, certain sort of spaces, just to make it a bit more dynamic. I would not be surprised, guys. This doesn't sound too out of the box. And that's the thing nowadays, because when it comes to devs and people, you can't put anything past them. If there's a way to help the process, then you know they're gonna do it. But what do you guys think the future of gaming is gonna look like? We've already got massive games already admitted that they're using AI in the next upcoming future. I wouldn't be surprised if they're using AI for that as well. But as an artist or designer, how do you feel that your creative space has been invaded by AI? Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Please like the video so I can rival the titles of YouTube.